Let's see if we're going to see a couple more Dark Flights, but we're going to wait a little while longer as we see our first carousel. Nice spattering of items here. Barely any repeats, actually. And so, because of these repeats, let's see where these directions are going to be, because it might set that tone a little bit more, proactively in this setup. So we're going to start with that Senna. What other things? Are we going to get that gold? Are we going to get some secondary items? We've talked about initial itemization already, but I'm also still really curious to see if Wajan Iverson is going to be able to come back from, a low standing. So something that is very common amongst, quote-unquote underdogs is the fact that they'll start out strong, but ending it in the same position has been very challenging for most sports teams. But this is probably one of the best Mirages here, especially for a tournament play. It's so fun to watch. Pirates Greed is going to be the case here. So we're definitely going to see some Mirages and maybe some itemization because of it a little while later, because you do get items from Pirates Greed as well. Namzi is going to be a mage here. That's something that could potentially come through on this particular board because of the Silas. So let's see what else we're going to do. We're already done with our second PvP, or PvE round, creep round. What else are we going to get? We got a lot of money right now. We're going to buy out the shop, get some pairs, and see where this is going.
We take a look at Wajan Iverson's spot in particular. He's first, he's playing for bonus points. You kind of have like a couple of different macro strategies from the tournament perspective about what you should be doing. Should you be trying to be a little bit more safe? Should you be trying to go for the big points? 23 feels like you're kind of there. Oh, accidentally converted one of his 2 drops to gold. That's definitely a little bit disappointing. Gets rewarded with additional gold and sells Volibear. Wow, okay. Those 3 seconds already has kind of like a 10-minute YouTube video analysis type situation of all the different things that you could be considering, but we have to move on. All I know is that Wajan Iverson sold the Golden Bear, and I'm not sure if I necessarily approve, but we'll see what he ends up getting from there.
This is what I mean by kind of like the, underdog type. The surprise at the late game can struggle. Something that a lot of people don't realize is getting across the finish line and winning these lobbies is a part of that skill, as well as we get a portable forge here. So Wajan Iverson starting off very strong, but we've seen it time and time again. These players that come in, make, a scene, and then all of a sudden end the day with an 8th. We're already kind of halfway there with Wajan. Let's see if that's going to continue. We do have the Zonias now. Amazing item for Kaisa. I think Riley said that a little bit earlier today, so that's definitely going to be moving that direction. But we've got a little bit of a smorgasbord right now, and Pirates to help with some extra gold, maybe even help us get to the 10 without really needing to sacrifice too much.
Well, if we're going to play Kaisa, we probably wanted to hold on to the Volibear. Very interesting situation. I think it could have even just simply been like Wajan Iverson didn't even mean to.
Yeah.
It's just it could be an easy misclick or just like a temporary brain fire. It's like, oh, I can't tell you how many times I've been like, oh, I got exactly what I needed. Let's hold on to this, and then immediately do the inverse of it. It's kind of weird how that happens. And some people like blame the lack of time. I do know people are like, oh, please Riot, please Mortdog at Ken Woohoo. Can we get like 2 more seconds at the end of PvE rounds because we can kind of make our decision more calmly? Either way, he's still in a pretty distant spot. Made a ton of gold. And it does have those Lagoons stacking. Speaking of Lagoons, we have Covenel right here in front of us. Covenel, a player that needs desperate help. I think even if he goes 1-1, we'll basically have to have the stars align to qualify at 26 points. And I know, and this is probably going to be unlikely. So Covenel is just playing for the ultimate Hail Mary, but I don't anticipate it to go very well.
Yeah, some people do like playing spoiler too, right? Once you get to this point, like the goal changes, right? You're not going to win. Let's see, what rivalries we might be able to create today if you're Covenel. Because every unit that Covenel has might take away that unit from someone who does have that chance. And so all of these decisions, even a single unit buy, can affect someone, 6 rounds later. How many times have we lost by 1 unit, for example, at the end of a game? So Covenel trying to play that spoiler role would be amazing to go first. And it's always really funny. I feel like in the last lobby, a lot of the 6th, 7th, 8th placers will end up placing very well, making things very close. But we're going to stick with our Lagoons mix and matching right now. We're going to get the Guardian in there instead.
Yeah, yesterday I talked a little bit with Covenel, asked them what their form was in. I asked a bunch of players, like, what's your current form, TFT form on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being like you had the utmost confidence, you're ready to win LCQ, regionals, and worlds. 1 being you don't even have the League of Legends client installed, you're not sure if your internet's stable. And a lot of people gave me a bunch of 6s to 8s. Kovanel just typed, "I suck." And I don't even know how to respond to that. And then he's like, now that I think about it, it's probably like a 6. I'm like, well, 6 is a lot higher than "I suck."
That's so
I'm
funny.
inclined to believe it's the former based off the results so far. But it's only 3, it's only 3 to 4 games. A lot of it could have been disastrous. But Kovanel also has a lot of potential, has actually done well in a lot of tournaments historically. We've seen Kovanel in positions to qualify for regionals in the past. So it's kind of a bummer. I like Kovanel a lot. Sometimes we DM some fun builds back and forth as well. Definitely a player that has a lot more potential than what their points indicate right now.
Yeah, definitely some room to grow still, right? If you kind of compare that against someone like a DQA, I think that's where that's going, right? We're going into that direction like a DQA. But we're having 3 people right now at 100 HP and then a 10 HP drop below that. I don't know if I've seen that spread very recently, but this is another carousel with a lot of variety, right? So almost everyone's going to be able to get what they want. Let's see if that's going to change any of these builds right now. As we ride along Bosso's skills, and we do see these augments as well. We do have some emblems. We have 2 Sunfire, so when you do get that, it takes away the need to build one yourself. It only does work for the beginning half of that, but we all are so getting some pirates going, and I've been so ready for these pirates on Mirage because this can get insane once you get the Deja in there.
Yeah, Sunfire board has been quite a revelation in recent times. It got a buff from 15 seconds of combat to 20. And it's been very effective because of it. For one, it helped people start to look at the augment a little bit more, even if the 5 seconds isn't mathematically that impressive for whatever reason. And then this is hypothetical. I haven't done the math myself. It still makes people reevaluate the augment and kind of recognize that there's ways that you can combo with it. A lot of times, Sunfire board is usually indicated you want to end the fight fast. It's a little bit at odds with the way Boston Skills has chosen to itemize. He's chosen Archangels, which is to scale the fight. And Sunfire wants to end it fast because you want to do it before the time runs out. But with 20 seconds, it gives you more flexibility to do so. In fact, there was a conversation I had with Mort when Mort's like, yeah, we even thought about 30 seconds. It's like, no. You definitely don't need Sunfire board for 30 seconds. It's pretty fine. Plus, it also makes it so that it feels like you never have to build anti-heal, which I think Sunfire board sometimes makes you feel like, maybe it's okay if I get it off of stage 5 or stage 6.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just pick up the completed Morellos later, right? It'll pop up. No worries, right? No matter what. Thanks, Mort. We'll PayPal you later. But yeah, we're going back over to Bosso. We do have the Archangels, which, again, is a little counterintuitive when it comes to the Sunfire board. But at least all of this initial damage is going to go through without any of that healing trying to mitigate it. This is a weak board. This should not lose in any situation in this round. So Rainzer right now just super biding their time, losing by about 4 units every single time so far. 58 HP, and we haven't even gotten to stage 3.
Yeah, it's pretty classic Renzer. He's very comfortable in that fast 9, loves playing that heavy economy style. Renzer, is cut from the same cloth as Goobums. Just they are good friends and they actually practiced a lot together and also kind of see the game similarly in that sense. Loves being able to play with a lot of gold, willing to sacrifice a bunch of HP in order to do it. You kind of talked about unusual spots with our lobbies. We have 3 players who are 100 HP streaking and didn't play each other, which actually creates a very cool mini game at 3-1. A lot of people kind of roll their eyes like, oh, it's just a matchmaking diff, but it creates kind of a game of chicken between all these players at 2-6 and at 3-1, and even at 3-2. What ends up happening is these players will now have to figure out which of these boards they're more likely to go for, who's willing to level to 6, which is pretty much all 3 of them, who's willing to roll on 6, and if they don't, and there's 2 streakers on 3-2, who's willing to go to 7, right? Like, it's also a really interesting dynamic here. So pay close attention to that in the next couple of rounds.
Oh, I am so excited because it's all about how much you're going to invest, right? I think Chicken is like the best example because it's like, I'm leveling up. Oh, now I am, right? You won't necessarily see it all happen at once on the side. So we'll see what this next matchup is going to be. We're over at Renzer. So Renzer could take the Soul Reaver matchup, which means Bosso and Phoenix could potentially face off against each other on this next round. This particular comp is still on the struggle bus right now. I'm naming it Struggles von Fuggles because there is no power whatsoever, but there is ramp, right? We have the 5 Astro. We're going to get some economy there. But is it too little too late?
I mean, we'll see. We saw Phoenix level. Some people try to do it the last second. We'll see whether or not either of those players can perhaps get a free win versus Renzer, specifically Soul Reaver. Oh! Look at that. Congratulations, Soul Reaver. Come on down. You are the big winner. Getting that free dub here. Yeah, Renzer's at 6, but he is really not competitive at this board. At least as far as I know. I mean, maybe the Silas with a Stoneplate Gargoyle will be able to get the work done. Silas in general has kind of yet to reclaim his former glory of being a super tank with 1 Stoneplate Gargoyle and a 1-star. But yeah, you can kind of see that Soul Reaver was cruised to an easy victory. And he did roll down to 10 gold. So Soul Reaver had only 1 tick of interest.
Okay, as we get to our next augment, we did have someone lose in that top, so we only have 2 100 HP. I do think Phoenix was able to take down the other 100 there. Oh, no, we have a Tiny Titans now as well, so we have more people in the triple digits with Wasian joining them at the top. So that is not a win streak whatsoever, but that is definitely going to help in this lobby, because if you look at 92 and then 78, that extra HP might be enough to sneak an extra higher placement. We'll see, but we have another Kaisa again here. We're about to cash out on another Lagoon reward. And we have the Cybernetic here that we're not spreading around. We're just going to put it on the Skarner for some frontline action, and we're going to power up our Kaisa, because that's who the carry is.
Yeah, that's all that really matters from this point, which is Kaisa. The extra mana on, let's say, Malphite is not that important, but the health is. So if Jason Java had extra items, more than happy to. And this is where, sometimes those silver augments like Band of Thieves or even Grabback can be incredibly valuable. Gives you tempo by giving the items that can be properly matched, plus have synergy with things like Cybernetics. You just see this Kaisa kind of tearing through frontline. It comes down to whose backline is able to blitzkrieg the others faster, and it seems like Jason Java able to get the better of Covenel here. A lot of Lagoon going on. 82 already for Jason Java. Just got another component. Able to even slam that Jewel Gauntlet. Jewel Gauntlet Giant Slayer is a really strong combination just because of the high base amount of ability power that you get from Dragonmancer for very cheap. You have to amplify that damage through crits and that GS multiplication. So everything looking pretty good for Jason Java thus far. We'll hop on over to DQA and see whether or not he is also able to turn around this lose streak. He's on a 7-loss streak, but he does have Tiny Titans, as you mentioned. So he is getting ready for the crazy turn, or not turn 7, the level 7 Seraphine Graves Bulldozer roll down.
I am actually a little surprised our HP is not as low as Renzer's here. Same amount of losses, right? But look at how much more HP we have, so much better at taking down individual units in terms of positioning and stuff for DQA. That might end up being a saving grace a little bit later on. And someone who has actually been missing in action a little bit is this Karma. Before this last patch, that Karma was everywhere, even in the front line. When it comes to reroll comps, this one is going to be very strong. We also have a Lilia here. I know Kent is probably super excited about that.
Yeah, Kent, one of the biggest Lilia simps I've ever seen. Definitely send all your Lilia requests over to @KentWoohoo on Twitter.
Yep, that goes along with the Gun Buddy request for Mort as well. You can do both at the same
Mort
time.
Actually has a few Gun Buddies, I believe, laying in his inventory. If you ask now, please don't do that. Please don't harass our very lovely Riot devs.
I love that. Anyway, Mort, we
Topic
love you.
change.
Topic change.
Talking about, so you mentioned DQA. He does have the Tiny Titans, which is helpful there. But, the question is, can he turn it around decisively? He's been racking up double gold. He's been double tipping both Mirage and Astral. Let's see if he's able to get to it. And here's the dynamic, too, which is how deep does he want to roll? Because if he's 2-starring, that means he needs a 4th copy of everything to prep things. So there's kind of a little song and dance about how low can you go. It's a game of limbo here.
Yeah, I actually really like your word dynamics here. I mean, in music, dynamics is, how loud or soft you play your piece. And right now, we got to keep it a little soft, right? We're prepping things on the bench. We're keeping the Pantheon on the bench. That's going to be nice to have. So we're going to get that prep stack. And then eventually when we're ready to, crescendo into our last bit of composition, we're going to be ready to do just that, especially with this Pantheon already made. Phoenix still at 100 HP. Phoenixes are supposed to rise from the ashes, this time creating them at the top of the leaderboard. Soul Reaver was one of those undefeated in the early game, and we're going to beat DQA this time as well. DQA hasn't actually had a very strong comp, but has been playing that loss streak pretty well.
Woo. We do see a snap of the loss streak from Wajan Iverson, able to get that win over Phoenix and stop it. Phoenix playing some good TFT, just really fundamental. As you saw, his Karma had Infinity Force, Titans, plus Ruden's Hurricane. Those are 3 items that I'm pretty sure if you ask people to pick one cost, Karma would be at the very bottom of the item holders, and yet was able to put together almost a stage 2 and 3 full streak. So really impressive stuff. His shop is also quite interesting, right? He got offered things like Deja, Aurelion Soul, Shioyu, and Siphon all before stage 4. So it seems like the game is giving him all kinds of options that could potentially bait him. But we'll see as we take a look at what I thought it was a rematch, but it wasn't. Wajan Iverson is now playing Phoenix, so I hold my tongue there. And Wajan Iverson does have this Zonia's with the Deja. Very strong combination in general because it helps drop the aggression. It's like a better Edge of Night in a lot of ways because it gives that ability power to help get that Deja in a decent spot. But Phoenix's tempo will not be denied. You can already see just the strength of what he's got together. As I do think Phoenix is one of the strong candidates here to finish on top of the game.
I wholeheartedly agree. We still have some Tempest here, though, for Soul Reaver. A lot of times we're going to move out of that. We've seen some Ezreal stick around to like stage 4, end of stage 4, but it's usually after that that we start moving things around. Ao Shin is something that, you know, if you're going to be playing Tempest, it's just going to happen, right? A lot of the End Dragon comps will have that carry for you. Let's see what these Wolves are going to give Soul Reaver. We have that Thieves Gloves on the Kiana, which is actually a pretty good holder of that item. A lot of units and some good items, actually. We have some choices to make.
Yeah, let's take a closer look here as Soul Reaver has decisions if he wants to roll on 7 or try to go for a fast 8. So he makes GS. With Deathblade and Giant Slayer in particular, and Ezreal in the Swift Shot, seems like it's a lean towards Xayah. Does have the opportunity to play for Zippy as well, but it does feel like rolling at 7 is very ill-advised, specifically for Xayah, because the comp is expensive to get online. The best part about rolling for 7 is the tier 3 units, and the only one you really want to get in that Zion comp is Zippy. Heading over to Wajan Iverson, a player who also is not planning to roll probably until he gets to level 9, based on his current trajectory. Are you kidding me? That's an Idas 2 with 80 gold for Goldmancer at 4-1. This is absolutely filthy.
Yeah, double Zeeks on the Nunu as well. So we're also getting pirate value out of this comp. This is a tier 1 Deja, and look how good this Idas is on giving this Deja time. Remember, when you see that Deja comp, time is the #1 priority, and that's what that Idas gives you. That's also what the Zonias is going to give. If you're wondering why everyone is standing still, that is why. Zeri, though, just a little bit too much damage. A little bit more attack speed, and I think that would have been a little different as we get a prismatic emblem augment at the end. Celestial, High-End, and Band of Thieves.
I mean, high-end shopping has to be the first thing that comes to your mind here. When you have this much gold and you're able to level to 8, basically get to level 9 odds, and you can kind of play for Dragon. He also has 6 Mirage. It's not even just 4 Mirage. He's having the increased chance for the Admiral's Chest to get that extra item or 2 off of that. He's thinking about Celestial Blessing 3, which is really interesting. This is an interesting choice to me in particular because my eye immediately gravitates towards high-end shopping. But after looking at it a little bit closer, so we could talk about what he's trying to accomplish. Wajan Iverson thinks I have no combat augments, and right now it's a prismatic and a gold lobby. I can get outscaled. And right now, I also have so much gold. High-end shopping is an econ augment because it lets you basically have a lot of your gold go much farther based off your probability of your shops. So he's thinking, I need a lot of combat augments. However, that said, I know a lot of people who would take that high-end shopping and just feel like they're invincible. And when they get to 8 or even 9, they can even do things like play for 3-star dragons, especially based off their setup. So I'm particularly interested by it. By no means do I think that this was a bad pick. It was just one of the things that could have gotten away with being even greedier. And it seems like it's totally fine right now because he got to level 8. We're still making Mac interest gold. And he's very much clear to go to 9 here based off how everything is going right now.
And if anyone's curious why that, like, the 3 stars are there, you get access to them much earlier than everyone else with high-end shopping, right? You get it a whole level earlier than you might, so you can potentially reroll at 6 and steal a dragon at 7, get to 8 and get your, 10-cost dragons, your legendary dragons on the board for your dragon comps that are very similar to kind of like those Bill Gates comps from previous sets. So we're going back over to Renzer, who has been on the struggle bus and finally seems to be making a few stops to make sure that we can get off of that bus. Right now, it is the Lux with just 1.5 items. A lot of attack speed value here on the other side with DQA and that Zeri.
Kind of an unusual spot where Namzi doesn't troll you by walking up 1 hex. I don't know how this happened. Every time you play Namzi, who's a 3 hex range unit, ends up walking up 1 by staying back, kind of doomed Renzer to just eat nonstop Zyra Grasping Vines. Pretty unfortunate there. Renzer looks like he is going 8th, like not even close. He might not even see Treasure Dragon at this current pace as Covenel. The only person that can contest him right now based on 51 HP is streaking. Taking a look at DQA, a player who was trying to turn things around with the Seraphine Graves composition. He is contested, I believe. I think we see multiple players going for the Bulldozer comp. That's going to cap both of them, which is definitely not what DQA wants to see.
No, not at all. I mean, that is one of those holding hands on the bottom of the leaderboard types of situations that you just don't want to have. And if they're both the same level, they're going to be competing for the same units. It's going to make it even harder. Sometimes you get lucky and one person just gets the units, but it almost eliminates the secondary player when that happens. So you're entering a battle, you know, of the of wits and spirits, right? When you do contest a comp, I actually personally have a hard time with it. I'm someone who pivots maybe a little too early when I'm contested, because it can also like kind of get on you, right? It can be really annoying. Like, why does someone have a tier 3 unit of this when they don't need it, right? It almost feels like they're stealing from you personally.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes people do take it personally. That's why when that happens and I'm contesting somebody, I type enter and then I slash mute all. Enter again.
It's a legitimate strategy. Anyway, DQA now. Look at everyone looking at Covenel now. That's not something that you see every day, but a lot of times when you do get to stage 4, stage 5, the bottom of the leaderboard are some of the stronger comps. This Deja does need to get to Deja 2 here in the next couple of rounds to really keep that tempo going. These double Zeeks, though, is going to help this Bulldozer comp, the Lawnmower comp, get going, and it is barely even getting damage at this point.
Yeah, you can see kind of the greed, right? This is a good time to play Wage and Iverson. And yes, they do have CB3, but this is just way too much tempo coming in from the other side. You know, Wage and Iverson keeping himself kind of open to what he wants to itemize for the late stages of the game with that dragon does have some HP to give. And that lack of healing on the Deja, now that I noticed it, CB3 definitely looks really solid. Renzer with the big spike, Lobster 3, Paul Captain Flowers. Renzer is coming for number 1. Always about to go in 8th place like we predicted before.
Yeah.
Either way, something interesting is about to happen.
Yeah, I love it. I actually saw the coolest mage Skarner the other day. That was very annoying in the mid-game. But let's see if this is going to work out. It's Rock Lobster. DQA versus Soul Reaver, who had a very good start, but has sacked a lot of HP. Actually, everyone has. If you look top to bottom outside of Renzer, everyone actually pretty close. So every single one of these rounds going into stage 5 is going to help set up potentially higher finishes for those in the top 3 currently. Let's see if Soul Reaver is going to be able to get enough done. The answer is no. That double Zeeks, one with the Radiant on the Zeri, is really pushing the power on that Graves, and that itemization on the Graves is so nice as well.
Renzer's out in 8th place. It just looks like Astrals has not really been it today.
Yeah.
At least not in the current lobbies.
The Luxes, too, have been a little disappointing.
Has been a little bit on the disappointing side, which is just shocking. Maybe China knows something that we don't, but that would not be the first time.
True.
Taking a look at what Boss of Skills has collected, just trying to find... wow, we have infinite gold. We're at level 9. I'm kind of taking stock of what's happening here. We have a bunch of items here, so here comes the roll down. And because we have level up, could even think about trying to roll to stabilize, and then later in the game, think about level 10, as we did see DQA do that previously. Find Shalio 2, no strong definitive AP Dragon, so this board is pretty okay. I guess we do have a Deja, but it is Pirate Deja, so it's not as strong as it normally would be. And kind of an awkward spot too, because I sort of feel like we are relying on Goldmancer a little bit. Oh my gosh, we're sending to kind of 0 here at this point here for Bosso Skills. We gotta make sure we can put something together. Otherwise, it feels like we're just kind of be playing low eco for the rest of the game.
Yeah, we're also running out of time. There's still a lot to do in this round before the next one starts. Every single item needs to get on the board. We still have Reforgers that might be used for other things. So this might just be a wash right now for Bossa. We still have a lot to do. Let's see how many units we're going to be able to take down or maybe even steal a win. You never know how it happens. The Siphon has a PhD. Going into the back line, getting the corner unit out, avoiding the Jace with the ZZ Rot in the meantime. We'll get stuck on the ZZ Rot instead, but those two Sorakas, while fun to look at, will not be enough. Very interesting.
I mean, this is the fakest PhD I've ever seen.
I know, right?
I think that the hardest part about these kinds of boards is that a lot of people are going to get online around this 5-1, so you have to make sure to give yourself time. This is a problem that I think is quite pervasive across the top level. People really try to get... Oh my god, another duplicator. People try to get to level 9 and roll, but they don't give themselves time to properly position, scout, and get the right items onto the right champions and be very thoughtful about it. And I think that by doing so, it doesn't even really matter sometimes unless you absolutely hit everything and you're going to take infinite damage. And that loss from Bossa Skills, just keep that in mind. If Bossa Skills ever narrowly dies because, -2, -3 and misses out on top 4, top 2, top 1, that could be a loss that started it all.
Look at all of the attack speed on this board, too, with the double Shiv. I am in love with what I'm seeing on this board right now. I mean, that all works together. The double Shiv is very nice for the Deja, but the power levels are starting to even out. Like you said, at 5-1, right? This is exactly what we might have expected. Now, the question is, where do we invest these duplicators? We have 2, right? And I feel like I see a lot of people get stuck on, do I split the duplicators or do I invest in one unit, right? Of course, you want to get the most value as possible, but sometimes the cards just aren't in your favor.
What a generous gift for Wage Narvison, to go at 5-3, maximize the gold, giving a couple of free wins. But his generosity has reached its limit. Now he's going for that fast 9, full open sell outside of the Itis 2. And he is going for it. So let's see what 2-stars he's able to hit. He has 2 duplicators. He could also even play for a 3-star legendary dragon if the stars align. Passes one of the options. I think that's something that he plays for later in the game. 5 seconds. His board is not set. It's happening again.
No, man. A lot of people joke about APM in this game, but we actually saw it matter in this particular round. I mean, especially after the dragon round, you have to make these moves, and this is 3 rounds now, and I still feel like we're pivoting. You know what I mean? And that's never gonna feel that great. We do have the units, and we have the HP at least, but without that extra kind of leeway, we'd be talking about this as a pretty rough go of things. Let's see if this Zonia's is going to be enough to take the rest of the units down here. Might be. Everyone has stopped attacking the Aoshin, and now it's just the ZZ Rot. We're going to get the Natty Shyvana too as well, and I still am looking at those duplicators on the bench.
Yeah. So, look, he got the win. So, result is everything in this spot. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're kind of fortunate Bossa Skills did not cap the board. And again, Bossa Skills, that player that we talked about earlier a couple rounds ago, needs every single hit point that he can muster now. So it's an arms race. It's a Dragon's arms race. And some players are very far ahead of it. And then other players who are trying to tempo, look at DQ and Covenant. I think those are the 2
Oh, you're right.
bulldozer players.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 non-dragon players, if I recall correctly. That is really interesting to see them be able to capitalize on this period of instability while everyone is arming up.
That is actually fascinating, Dan. The fact that, traditionally, I mean, the set is all about dragons, right? And it's actually the comps without them that seem to be doing the best right now. This is Mr. Old Traditional, right? This is vanilla, I would say, when it comes to this particular set. We got that Soifin going on. Very good items on that Xiaoyu. And any type of lifesteal is pretty good on Siphon. Let's see what school, if any, the Siphon did go to.
Yeah, looks like... he's power loading all onto one side. Very interesting positioning here from Phoenix. A lot of times you spread out across the front line, and Xiaoyu is usually in the second row, while Siphon's in the first row. You kind of let Jax and units like Pantheon absorb a lot of that damage. So very peculiar and very specific positioning for Phoenix. I'm not sure if this actually worked out the way he wanted to, but also this is a bad matchup.
Yeah.
And there's 2 of them in the lobby. Seraphine Graves is really strong because things like the Siphon Bite are unlikely to get the execute, and then they're within range of all the Cannoneers. Things tend to line up really easily as well for the way Graves and Seraphine and Zyra all kind of interact. So, and then you clump up for Pantheon. So it's kind of a tough matchup on paper. Speaking of tough matchups, it looks like Bossa Skills just ran into nonstop cracked boards and just took 3 losses into a 7th place.
Yeah.
And that we talked about that -4. If he was able to preserve a little bit more HP, maybe this was a round they stabilized. So it just goes to show you that TFT, the smallest of errors could lead to profound differences to whether or not your game is able to be a 7th place or you're able to stabilize and win out and get that crazy Dragon Board online.
Is that early game unit that you lost an extra 1 for going to cause you to get that 5th instead of 4th, right? You lose by 2 HP. The 4 HP here is just 2 units at any point in the rest of the game. So a lot of things could have been different. That's already a Lee Sin 3, by the way, from Jason Java. So we've got the Dragonmancers online, Dragonmancer Soraka too, helping things out. This matchup was pretty close. So let's see if the Zyra is going to be able to take down the Bard. It could happen because Bard only really has the auto attacks. We're in overtime. We've got Splinters versus Cotton Balls, and it's going to be the Cotton Balls taking the victory.
Power of music prevails. Again, TFT the musical coming this fall. I love it.
I was a Chimes player back in Drumline, Dan. I played the Chimes.
Fair enough. Yeah. I would like to think that I didn't make fun of Chimes players when I was also in band, but I don't think I was mature enough. I was 13.
You probably did. We were usually not that great. I did a lot of growing the next couple of years. Anyway,
it's okay. Look, I played the marimba. I'm not exactly like the rock star of band, but
you're the rock star of the mallet.
I wasn't the lowest on the totem pole. It wasn't an 8th, and we take that.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That's a top 4 instrument right there. As we are only 1 bear away, by the way, from this Volibear on Jason Java. That'd be very nice for them. And we'd free up the sword as well to potentially make into something else if we get another component. But Dragonmancers have definitely still been super popular. It's not been the Karma. It's definitely been the Kaisa. This is one of the few tier 3 Lee Sins we've had. But with Lucky Gloves, I mean, 2 of these units are going to get items that they can use, and one of them can potentially be a tier 3 Volibear. Nice Shroud, though. Lots of Zeeks on the other side from Covenel, who, if you're remembering, should have a very similar look to DQA, who did just lose.
Oh my god, Covenel's not 1, not 2, but 3 Zeeks. And with powerful combat augments, I can kind of see like how he's able to get to 9 really consistently and just, you know, bulldoze his way through. It seems like Jason Java is now the latest victim. Jason Java's out with what should be one of the strongest comps on paper. People talk about the cap all the time. DQA trying to pressure the other side, but this Aoshin Zhonya's is just such a strong combination. If you are a big fan of Diamond Hands on Aoshin, which I know a lot of players love to do at this stage of the game, you're also going to love the Zhonyas. But that is just DQA. He's not even in his final form. That is 8 Seraphines prepping on the bench. And you can see how long he's had this, right? He's had it for many rounds in a row, and he hits the Seraphine 3.
Just hit.
Very strong spike here. The rest of the lobby is on notice. DQA might be able to win out from here.
I completely wholeheartedly agree with you. And the fact that's what's really scary is when DQA's been this strong, he's had like 6 HP, right? It becomes like a rock, paper, scissors, but we have so much extra HP. I think we're going to get a Graves versus Graves endgame here, but because we have the Seraphine 3 already, I think DQA has got the advantage to start. We have Zippy in the back line. Zippy is going to get a little bit weaker at this point. It's good CC, but we do have backline access, which, as we've said, is very important, but it is not good enough. That Graves is going to die of cutscene. I think this is my new favorite one, by the way.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
It does a lot of mental damage, especially to Twitch streamers. Particular. Phoenix ends up taking the 5th. Very crucial that Soul Reaver was able to kill an extra 2 units throughout this game in order to get that extra HP. And now we have 2 players who are going for this Bulldozer comp and 1 player who has this unstoppable Dragon board. DQA holding the Tempest, holding the Aoshin, because, well, one, you never know if it ends up being something that he can tech into his composition. Say, for example, replace both the Kiana as well as the Yasuo, but also knows that Wage and Iverson has those 2 duplicators and is holding those Aoshins as well. So you have to stop Aoshin 3, and with 2, on paper, should be able to stop it, but those duplicators do pose quite a problem. So we'll see, right? He's not completely out of the woods just yet, but we never know. Wage and Iverson might be able to make Aoshin 3 happen this game, especially if he's able to beat DQA like that.
That was a lot of gold, too, going that direction. And so I'm super excited to see where that's going to end up. DQA losing. Very interesting because Covenel running a very similar comp and winning that last round. But, oh, now our Bulldozer's starting to look like a Bob the Builder toy against Wajan Iverson's slot right now because that Aushin, I believe there's one Aushin remaining in the packs. So that's the one I think Covenel can get. So if DQA is able to find that last one, I think we block the Aushin 3.
That's correct. We have 10 units at every legendary tier. So if you have 2 of them, theoretically, they're unable to get that 3-star. But as we did mention, there's duplicators. Also, DQA might die, right? Losing to Wajan Iverson. Love this Guardian pickup. I mean, by all means, this is quite close to what people consider to be the Exodia. Here's also the catch. Wajan Iverson doesn't even have to go for Aushin 3. Like, everyone's going for it, and then all of a sudden, he just switches on you and goes for Shyvana 3. That's partially what makes this duplicator setup so insane, because he has multiple options to cap up his board and instantly win the game.
He just can't get baited into like doing like iterative power-up levels here, right? Like, don't use it on the Bard. I think a lot of people would see a 5-cost unit, 2 duplicators, and maybe invest in that. But no, we're doing it this way instead. But I mean, there are so many units still on this Bulldozer squad. It's all about that Bard ult and getting to the Aushin ult. Because if we are able to get there in time, then it will be fine. Unfortunately, though, the Zonias does help us get a unit, but that was a pretty big loss.
It was a Shroud, and I think Wajan Iverson telegraphed the Shroud a little bit too hard because he's greeting for full Jade value. I think this is actually a pretty significant mistake. A lot of people actually think about this 3 Jade, but in reality, it's just the Aushin show. Oh my god, 3-star Soraka! Never mind, this game is over for everybody else. The Soraka just has to cast one time, heal almost back to full life immediately, and then we'll start deleting those units. That's right, we did study up. We know what Soraka 3 does.
Thanks, Dan. I especially do. Let's see what's going to happen here. You blink, and let's get to that ultimate.
So the first one heals up to 101. Oh, I forgot, we have Tiny Titan.
Yeah.
Above the cap.
So we are going to go above the cap. We get the Guardian buff there as well. Wow. I mean, I don't really see how Soraka 3 loses in any situation, especially since we're going to get more HP every single time.
I mean, it's just a little bit above the cap. Maybe it was a catering thing in the budget, you know. It's not a severe major infraction. I'm sure the FIA will get on top of it.
Yeah.
We'll cap. Well, let's look at what DQA and Covenel can do to play for second tier. There's really not much they can do in the face of Soraka 3. And it's really about, I guess, a combination of, is there a way that they can survive the onslaught of the stars? And whether or not they can get an edge over each other. And we look at the head-to-head. Covenel has stronger combat augments because of the double cyber stacking. DQA does have prep, and he has Seraphine 3. I am curious who's going to be able to get the second place.
Yeah, I am too, because Covenel is very far down on the leaderboard, and DQA would love any points at this point, right? In 9th place, an extra point could give a little bit of freedom, and I think in this last game in terms of where we're positioned. We could have natty to Zoe, because why not? In that situation, we're just going to take 2 instead. We still have prep too, so our base stats are just better, right? So I'm wondering if DQA is going to be able to beat Covenel because of that prep. But it seems like Covenel has some good work with that Zeri with the 3 Zeeks instead of the one here with the Radiant and the Hodge. But everyone's still looking at Soraka 3. Pretty crazy unit.
DQA knows he's going against Wajan Iverson. He's about to take 1 million damage. By the way, there's another Shyvana 2 on the bench. Wajan Iverson is going for everything. He's also going for Shyvana 3 on top. I mean, this is just a product of being able to delete everything, have infinite gold, and now this poor ZZ Rod has to hold off against the onslaught of the dragons. DQA is so dead. He is absolutely third here, I think, unless Covenel's able to actually... Oh, wait a second. Covenel beat the board because I don't think the ghost heals up.
That's
Therefore, Covenel didn't get his board deleted.
Oh my goodness.
Skillfully able to dodge Wajan Iverson and somehow read the code. This guy just sees the Matrix. Shyvana 3, Aushin 3, Soraka 3 all on the table. This might be the cappiest of all cap boards that I've ever seen in a Teamfight Tactics tournament.
This is beautiful Frodan, I feel lucky to be able to be a part of this. Why not give Soraka some attack speed as well? Right? Let's just get to our ult a little bit quicker. All right. Let's see what happens here. We got the Shroud. Maybe giving them a chance? No. No. Man, how satisfying is that? You know, I watched Dr. Pimple Popper on YouTube. Very similar feeling.
There's an Onion article about how Kanye West scored like 109 points against a team of players in wheelchairs and kind of oh my god!
Oh,
why not?
I'm leaving. I'm just gonna leave. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm never gonna experience this kind of luck in my life. I'm just starting to get mad.
DQA is the next victim.
Oh,
DQA is about to take infinite max damage. Frontline Aushin with Zonias. I mean, this is absolute massacre of events. And Wajan Iverson, I mean, he's able to do it at 130 HP. Just the absolute cherry on top. Oh, actually, it's a fight against the ghost of DQA. Hold on a second. DQA actually might be able to go for second. He's able to beat Covenant to head-to-head. We're at 7-3.
Yeah.
This
is actually a really big deal. So you see the Soraka, and it's done. So Wajan Iverson is going to win that round, of course, because we are at that 130. Let's see what Covenant and DQA are going to be able to do. DQA absolutely needs this win. And we did not get it.
Well done to Covenant. In some ways, it feels like Covenant feels like he won the game. He's like, okay, there's no way I was ever going to get first. Why are we still in this game?
I know, right? We're in
You aren't allowed to surrender? This is not against competitive integrity?
Like,
I have dinner plans in an hour and a half? Please!
Man. I have to go to a costume party? Yeah, Covenant at this point is just, like, wanting to play, I guess, some more games. So, and Covenant also a spoiler in this round, not really on top of the leaderboard, so stealing points away from every single person below him, making it a little bit harder potentially for someone to make it to the final 8. Remember, this is the penultimate lobby. Covenant versus Wajan Iverson. There's literally no scenario where Covenant wins. Let's just look at the beauty of what this comp is. There's so much HP on the other side, and it literally does not matter.
You've never seen 100 lightning bolts gunning for all of your board, then you've never lived, because you're about to bear witness. Look! Don't look away! Don't close your eyes! And watch the 100 ready razors rain down upon everything! Covenant is dead. And Wajan Iverson cruises to the easiest first place of his life. Well done, well played.
Technically a perfect lobby as